Yeah. All right. So we're live and we're recording, and it's Monday, July 15th. We had some interesting things happening over the weekend. We're not going to, we're just going to just say that.
Yes.
But on the good news side of it, we had a celebration with a bunch of booksellers and bookstores and reps, with you who watch Tea Time on a regular basis probably should have been at this party because you would have known all the reps that were there.
We should have taken a tea time picture.
We should have taken a tea time.
It was a great
picture.
Party, but with the one thing we forgot to do.
Yep, we didn't do that.
Wow.
But
Didn't
we
even
had
think about it.
I know. Although Tom brought up Tea Time in his speech, which I loved because it's like, this really has, so just to let you know, we had a retirement party for Gabe, who was with Harper, who's retired, and for Steve Atinsky from Canop that retired earlier this year, like February-ish.
Earlier this year.
Yeah, February.
Yeah, February-ish he retired. And so we had a really nice party up at Vroman's, which is another independent bookstore up in Pasadena. But Tom brought up in his speech, which I loved, about what this meant to you, Tom, and to all the reps, like through the pandemic and getting to know your fellow reps from other houses.
Yeah.
That was something I hadn't planned to say, but it was so from the heart that that just tumbled out because that has been felt so true to me, and then it turned out other reps felt the same way.
Yeah, because it's one of those. Go ahead, Nadia.
Well, I just feel like it still is, but it was during that weird time, like a bridge to our community. And it really helped me out, like, psychologically for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that for the people don't really realize is you all don't get together that often.
No.
There's not
because
really.
We're all in the stores at different times because we have big lists to talk about with booksellers, and they're not going to schedule you back to back.
Right. And so there's not really many opportunities for you as sales reps to get together with other sales reps from other companies. So it's kind of a unique thing.
Right. Yeah, it's very rare when that would ever happen. And then, and then as the years went on, even before COVID, just fewer and fewer opportunities. And so to see each other on a regular basis, talk books, which is what we love to do.
Right.
It's amazing how that, like I said yesterday, nothing good came from the pandemic, but this is something that I think about, and it's great that we're still doing it.
I know. I love that we're still doing it, and we still get. I'm thankful to some new. We have some new viewers that have been watching over the last couple of weeks, and to our standbys that have been here from the beginning. Thank you. We love that you're all still loving this. So, and we'll still keep doing it. We're going to have a couple. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and Gabe and Steve were instrumental throughout, but especially at the beginning.
For sure. Oh no, definitely. Those two were definite staples. The four of you were definitely staples in this. We're going to have some blips in August.
What do you mean by blips?
Well, Amanda and I are both going to be gone on a Monday. So I don't think we're going to miss, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe get you guys and we'll record something and then we'll just play it on YouTube on Monday. So I'm not going to technically miss, but it may not be live. So
so there'll be no live comments though, which I do appreciate.
The live comments are my favorite part too. So even though there's a little bit of a delay with us, because
as long as it's only once or twice,
right?
We don't regularly record it.
I don't want to miss. That's my thing.
No, I don't either.
I don't want to miss. It's kind of like now it's kind of one of those Guinness World Book of Record things I got going on in my head.
and I want to get Gabe and Steve back on at some point.
Me too. Because I really think now that they're retired, we can have a little guest, like, okay, what do you read? Because now they could read anybody's books.
Yeah.
It's great.
Be a surprise who they read. All right, let's get to it, because I know we've got some good stuff to read. So Andrea, are you ready?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. I've just been sitting around shooting the you know what.
If you don't know, Andrea's actually we had the party in Pasadena. Andrea's actually in Pasadena still doing some stuff. So she's outside, looks like by the pool, maybe has a little cocktail in her hand. So Tom, you and I are stuck in our home office.
I know. Gosh, no cocktail.
No cocktail. All right, you're on, Andrea.
Well, last week in all the hubbub, I failed to discuss the 33rd installment of Donna Leon's what is his name? Not his name, his title, Commissario Guido Brunetti's series. It's the 33rd installment.
Oops.
Of this I know of this character's you know, development over time, which is totally ridiculous that I forgot to talk about this last week. But the good news is there's still signed copies in the store of this book, because the buyer Mallory you know, stocks up because it's so popular at Warwick. So it's kind of unbelievable that Donna Leon has been doing this for so many years. She's in her early 80s, and this book stacks up with the best of them. Both the publisher, Grove Atlantic publisher, Morgan Entrekin, and legendary longtime editor, George Gibbon, both avow that this is as good or even better than anything else she's written in the series. And so, hey, you're in your early 80s and you're still cooking along and, you know, have like all of your faculties and ability to keep on writing at the same level as you were doing in your, you know, early 30s. I mean, more power to you. And it could be, you know, all of that great time that she spent in Venice over the years. So, and so this is a Refiner's Fire. And like I said, there's signed copies, and don't miss it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Donna's just a staple, and she's just still as good as she was. So I think George is absolutely right, or even better. It was even gotten better.
And she's lived a really amazing life. She got stuck behind Iranian lines when the whole hostage situation occurred in the 70s. She was there teaching English, and she couldn't get out. They had to, like, you know, have special emissaries to get teachers and you know, other like Western folks that were there for other jobs to get them out. I mean, you know, I mean,
Amazing.
yeah, she's had quite an interesting life, and she's putting all of that into these novels. I'm telling you, it's just
well. And Lori is on here, and she said she really enjoyed her memoir, Walking Through Life, which was just recently, like maybe last year, maybe.
Yep. It came out around this time last year, and I'm glad that
Wandering Through Life. Yeah.
And yeah, that's so that whole thing about being behind lines in Iran during the hostage crisis is a pretty harrowing and compelling story. And she just kind of maneuvers and speaks of these things with ridiculous ease, you know. So
yeah, she's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom, before you start, Dee's on here, and she wants to thank you for recommending Trust Her by Flynn Barry.
Oh, excellent.
She really liked it. Says it's a great character-driven thriller, and she couldn't.
Oh, fun. That's awesome.
Couldn't turn the pages fast enough.
Love that. That's why we love the comments.
I love the comments.
yeah.
All right.
Should I go ahead?
Yep.
Okay. So we are week after week, big book after big book is coming this summer from us. Lev Grossman's The Bright Sword. So this is the cover, but this is a big book. It doesn't give you this does not give you an idea of how big the book is, as it should be, because it is the Arthur's, or it's a new Arthur story. So he's taking the myth of King Arthur, the story of King Arthur, and refreshing it, renewing it. So this is the first book since the Magician's Trilogy. So I think it was about 8 years ago, maybe, that, you know, he's been working.
Maybe even more than that.
I know. Well, the first one was definitely longer ago than that. Long enough for 3 books to come out in the trilogy, a TV series with, I think, multiple seasons to come and go. And so that was his version of like Harry Potter, like an adult Harry Potter. was the idea behind the Magicians. So he's a master. He's a great writer, and a great like deconstructor and reconstructor of these kinds of stories that have a lot of meaning for us, but he finds new ways to tell those stories. And we say this, you know, and I think it's true. Every generation needs its Arthur story. It is such an elemental kind of a story that we have told over and over again. And there's always room for a great new one. And that's what I think we have here with the Lev Grossman, The Bright Sword. So we have a quote from none other than George R.R. Martin. "If you love King Arthur as much as I do, you'll love Lev Grossman's The Bright Sword, a fresh and engrossing take on the matter of Britain, featuring a colorful cast of roundtable knights who don't often get as much story time as they deserve. The creator of the Magicians has woven another spell." And what's fun about this book is that it's about a knight who arrives at the round table ready to, you know, do the thing, and he's a little bit late. King Arthur has just passed away, and so it's what follows. So it's fresh. Lev describes it. He has a great description. He says, "My ambition with The Bright Sword was to completely reimagine the legend of King Arthur, to make it fresh, relevant, and diverse, while at the same time hanging on to all the classic elements that fans like me love." So it's already so it's out tomorrow. Already getting amazing reviews. Already been sold for television.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Lots going on. So this is going to take us all through the summer into the fall. The Bright Sword.
I love it. Amanda's on here saying, "Stop blurbing and start writing, George R.R. Martin."
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep blurbing if they're like this. Thank you, George R. R. Martin.
I love it because it's like, it's so true.
He likes to help his friends, I guess.
I like it. He's a good soldier that way. Yeah. It's I read the first of the Magicians. I think he's a really good writer. So it's I can't wait because I grabbed this one from the store.
Yeah. Before he was a novelist, officially, he was a great book critic. Really smart book critic back in the day.
Okay.
So
interesting.
He knows the business inside and out.
Yeah. All right, Andrea, what do you got next for us?
Okay, something just happened. Sorry, guys. I'm still okay. I'm really not paying attention. I'm not on it here by poolside today.
Yeah, I think the poolside's getting to you there, sister.
Yeah, I better just straighten up. Okay.
I kind of like it's okay.
I love this cover on this book.
A really good cover.
What the Wild Sea Can Be, the Future of the World's Ocean. And this is by Helen Scales, who's a acclaimed marine biologist who wrote what was it called? The Brilliant Abyss, that I also talked about here when that came out. And of course, that's a book that is going to do well in any of the coastal independent bookstores, right? And that sold probably about 20,000 copies in hardcover, which is not too shabby. And we think this has a shot as well of doing pretty well. And basically here, Scales is examining the existential threats that the world's oceans are going to face over the next 75 years, because that's pretty much as far as the models can extend. It's just, there's too many extenuating circumstances, especially now that we find ourselves, in the throes of wild fluctuations in weather, et cetera, because of climate change. And and I also just want to show you some of the incredible underwater photography that's here in this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really stunning.
Okay, I didn't expect that kind of photography from that cover.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's got a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
And
that's
really,
amazing.
Like Scales can do what she wants and command whatever cover she wants, because she's just a great scientist and is one of their house scientific writers. Okay, and this is from Atlantic Monthly, so Grove sister publishing concern. And she thinks that according to the climate trends and all of the latest research, you know, obviously there's going to be some drastic changes in the oceanic systems, and like, you know, the little microclimates around different areas. You know, there's little shoals offshore here in this area, and completely, you know, and like the deep trench stuff. So she gets into all of that. She talks about you know, species, like what species are most endangered, but also talks about some winners that may like thrive in the changing ocean scape. So and she's mildly, gently optimistic in her approach, which I think we can all handle that right now. I'm embracing even the gently optimistic. Okay. So good on you, Dr. Scales. We're happy. And so that's that, what the wild sea can be. And
Love it.
that's out. Yep, that's in store, in the stores now. It's on a table, pretty sure, for the
Yep.
store table at Warwick's, and that's out and available now.
That's a beautiful book. Those illustrations are incredible.
Yeah. And you know,
Really is.
just to let you know, it's not just you know, people like my stores in the Southwest, like in the driest, you know, big gulch big corners of Arizona are buying this book because it is so compelling. And everybody, you know, there's a lot of people that are interested in the ocean, and we do depend on it, obviously, or like the whole ocean system. So I think this is going to be one of those books that you know, people are going to buy through the holidays for
I
folks that
agree.
are
It looks like a really good gift type of a book. Okay, I want to read you guys a couple of comments here. So one is, and Beth and Dee are some of our very good readers that are out here. So Beth read The Safe Keep, which is Shannon's book. She also read The Covenant of Water, The Queen of Dirt Island. I don't know whose that was. Big in Sweden, and Lulu Dean's Little Library of Banned Books, and she's almost done with God of the Woods. So
wow.
you guys are like
Voracious.
some big books out there. And then I see y'all are talking about the 100 books from we're going to talk about that at the very end. So we'll, because I love that you guys are engaged on that too. So we're going to talk about that 100 books that the New York Times list put of the century. So we got some things to talk about on that too.
Yeah.
All right, Tom.
They're in the know. You're readers.
You guys are in the know.
And I'm going to take Andrea's cautious optimism. Like that's
And smash it.
no. I'm going to embrace it. I'm looking for some cautious optimism.
That's Gabe's job. When
Yeah.
he comes on, he'll do that.
Exactly.
He'll smash it. He'll smash it.
Not me. No, I'm embracing it. I love it. And so my next book, and maybe this is cautiously optimistic also. It's called Other Rivers, A Chinese Education by Peter Heller. So Hessler, sorry. I'm thinking of Peter Heller, right?
Peter Heller. Yeah,
right.
Dog Stars. You're thinking of
Right,
Dog Stars.
exactly.
Guy.
Peter Hessler, who writes for The New Yorker. And this is fascinating. Now, we didn't publish the first, like, he's published a lot of books. He's a foreign correspondent. He writes about other countries, a little bit travel, history, all that stuff, just in the kind of the New Yorker style. But in 2001, he published a book called Rivertown, which was about his time. He'd gone to China in the Peace Corps to teach. And so that was about that experience as a younger man. Now it's over 20 years later. He's gone back with his family to China to teach at the university in Sichuan. And it's about how the country has changed, how the students have changed. Now, students were more rural. Now we have this country that has, so much has changed in the country economically. The kinds of students they're much more stressed. They're much more ambitious. They come as only children whose schooling was, much more intense. The focus of parents, the only focus of their parents. So it's about China. So it's really about the country and the rise of China, but also the pressures that has brought to bear on the children and the young people of China, who can look at it with, they know what they get it. You know, they can see it with an eye that we don't hear very often. He's able to tell us about that. So it's really a fascinating, the two books together. You don't have to have read the first book, because I didn't read the first book, but I love the idea. There are filmmakers who make, Michael Apted made, do you remember those?
Yes,
7 Up, wasn't it like
Yeah.
every 7 years
Every
he made a
7
documentary
years.
about the same group of kids? You don't see
Yes.
that. I don't think that happens in books, and that's not really the intent of this, but I love the idea of an update by an author who wrote kind of a landmark book of its time, and now he's returned to that same setting to see what's the same and what's changed. And he was there with his family during parts of COVID, and he was one of the rare Westerners who was there during that time. So he brings that to it as well. So it's a fascinating look at China's progress and the downside of that progress. So if you're interested in this subject, this is the book, Other Rivers by Peter Hessler.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the more that we educate ourselves about China,
Yeah.
the better we all are going to be off in understanding how we need to work with them, but the threat that's there too.
You can only do that with writers like this who have can give you a look at the people, them, you know, not like a macro view, but a micro view.
Right. Because that's what it all comes down to with all this stuff. I mean, even what we're all gets, it comes down to each individual and what's happening to us, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good. The immersive approach is, I think, what we need by somebody who has spent time.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrea, before you go off screen, Beth's on here and she goes, "Ooh, I love Andrea's rings. So you might have to do one of these for everybody."
Oh.
You might have to. You might have to do one of these and show everybody your rings.
Well, thank you. They do hold me down in a big wind for sure. And I don't know what it is. I collect them, you know, people friends give me rings and everything now. So, but thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the next book I want to talk about, is now in, trade paperback.
That's another great cover.
Yep. I think it's a lot stronger than the hardcover edition, actually. And I think it's really good for nonfiction book groups. You know, and this was something I talked about when it was in hardcover. Everything, Nothing, Someone by Alice Carriere or Calliar. This is a literary memoir of a young woman who was coming of age in the bohemian 90s in New York City, just as her fairly privileged adolescence made way for a harrowing battle with dissociative disorder. You know, not for the faint of heart, okay? And it reads a little bit like Girl Interrupted meets Prozac Nation, but just extraordinarily well written and very literary. It's just, she's a beautiful writer. And Bret Easton Ellis, of all people, read this and called it Didion-esque. Okay, so we're talking echoes of the great nonfiction master Joan Didion here. And to that end, it was named the New York Times Editor's Choice. It was an Indie Next pick for all of the indie booksellers. It was a Publishers Weekly Best Nonfiction of 2023. It hit that list. Kirkus Best Nonfiction 2023. The Great Satan, Amazon Best Best of the Month. BNN Most Anticipated. So all across the board, okay. Let me see. This is really beautiful too. A New York Times Book Review quote here: "Remarkable, a timeless tale of surviving what happened. It just went away." Sorry. See, I'm out here.
I love it. It's the cocktail.
I'm out here and I can't see. Oh goodness. Okay. remarkable, a timeless tale of surviving emotional neglect and mental illness, but it is also a story of a singular household filled with complex and exceptional artists and the author's experience of inheriting their prodigious legacy, raw, filled with sorrow, dark humor, and sharp observation. So if you're, hankering for a little bohemian New York City, rife with troubled homes and like artistic legacy, this is it. And it's and the thing that I really appreciate about it is that it is full of redemption. She survives this and thrives, and what's not to love about that? Okay. Now, is it okay if we talk about the New York?
Let's let Tom
wanna
go,
do that
and then
later?
we're going to talk, and then we'll come back to this,
Okay.
and we'll talk about that whole thing.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that memoir though sounds amazing, and I mean, there's a
does.
lot of really good, like, those are amazing blurbs on it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the real deal, and it's from Spiegel and Grau. I forgot to say that. And
yeah.
the editorial eye there is impeccable. So
Yeah.
Well,
Amazing.
oh, you ready for me to go?
Yep.
Yep. So also out tomorrow is Sarah Pierce's The Wilds. So she was a bestseller from the get-go. This is the third book we published. The first book was The Sanatorium, which took us by surprise. She's a British writer. Immediately hit the bestseller list. It was a Reese pick, that very first one. And it introduced a detective, Ellen Warner. And then she followed that up with, I think we're on a book a year schedule, which was the last book was The Retreat, second book in the series. And then interestingly, this third book, this is it. She's winding up this series, and the next book, which we will publish probably next year, is a standalone. But each book has gotten a little bit darker, twistier, to me a little bit more, each one more like Tana, like one of my favorite writers, Tana French.
Right.
So I do think that it's good to, I think you should pick up the first two if you haven't read them, The Sanatorium and The Retreat, because there are twists in here and there are reveals in here that, refer back to the previous books. But together, it's a really great trilogy. And I'm fascinated to see where she goes next. So this is out tomorrow. Oh, also the setting is cool. It's a national park in Portugal. So you see a whole different part of the world. And I love books set in like the wild. So a national park, especially in Portugal, which I know nothing about. So that's Sarah Pierce's The Wilds.
very
And
cool.
there's really good, a good thriller, a good story like that is a good summer read.
And I should also say this comes to us from Pamela Dorman books. So Pam Dorman, who I talk about all the time on Tea Time and everywhere I go because I love Pam. She's the real deal. She is an old school editor who has the best taste but also really in touch with what people want to read. That's why it shouldn't have surprised me that her first book was a bestseller from the minute we published it. But she's the editor, right now of Richard Osman, most famously. But I could go, the list of bestsellers from
the
Pam.
list of her books goes on and on. I mean, she is amazing.
So you can trust the Pam Dorman book.
Yep. Okay, Andrea, I'll let you lead off, and then we'll go back to the conversation. So
a round of applause for
yes,
amazing.
Yes, we're very excited by the news from the New York Times when they did their top 100 books of the 21st century so far, that, little old Publishers Group West and our sister distribution line, Two Rivers, has 7 titles in the top 100 books. I mean, these are all small indie presses, so we're excited. And the first one, of course, is Ta-da! My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, and this hails from Europa Editions, of course. And number 40, H is for Hawk, which is amazing, from Helen McDonald. Number 41, Small Things Like These, one of the just amazing works of genius. Magisterial, Amanda, Magisterial.
And we got it in.
Yep, got it in. From our friend Claire Keegan. Number 92, oh sorry, number 69, The New Jim Crow from Michelle Alexander. Amazing work of like socio-political analysis. And then Elena Ferrante has two more on the top 100. So The Story of the Lost Child at 80, and number 92, The Days of Abandonment, with number 90, The Sympathizer, the Pulitzer Prize winner for 2015, I believe, by Viet Thanh Nguyen, also a HBO Max limited series of some note, might I add. But you know what? I'm sorry. I think that book deserves to be much higher on the list, in my humble opinion. And what else do you guys want to talk about?
All right. It is pretty amazing that that's number one, and that she ended up with three.
And then she had two other books.
Two more.
Yeah.
So she had three, and then I think the only other person that had three was Jessamine Ward. I think ended up with three.
Oh, did she have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know who else did? George Saunders.
Oh yeah, you're
that's
right. George
right.
Saunders did too.
That's right.
Yeah.
George
Yeah.
Saunders did too. Tom, somebody on here is already doing the stats for you. Not surprising though. And I think these stats are correct. I think it was Dee that said it's like Penguin Random House published were 80% of the books that were on the list.
Well, I think we had 49. So
Okay, so that's not quite 80%.
it's not quite 80, but I like the idea of 80%.
I like 80%.
I'm just happy that some of my books get into bookstores. Okay.
Well, and that's the thing though, and I think that's the thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but the gems that you bring to us, and that's what I think is what I appreciate about you coming on to Tea Time too, is that these are books that need to be, all of us need to, they're good books. They're really, really, you know, those publishers of, and Grove seems to be the, Europa and Grove are the two that are the mainstays there. But I love some of these smaller pubs too. It's like you bring us some gems, some absolute gems.
Well, and I think that thank you. I'm really proud. You know, it's an honor and a privilege to represent these small, hardworking, you know, independent publishers that have a vision, right? And are against the big, you know, the big dogs, and just are publishing what they want to publish because they feel like it's important.
Right.
For the exchange of ideas, the free exchange of ideas. May it rain for many years.
Right.
And so it's, you know, it's I think it's really important work what we do, all of us.
All of us.
And I'm very proud of like what these folks are doing. And I also think that that's what makes independent booksellers so amazing, is because they have, it's not a corporate experience. You go into a store and you go, what little jewel
is this? Right. What am I gonna find?
Yeah, and like you find these, like, you know, like these rare gems that are showcased in the independent stores that you're not necessarily always see on the New York Times bestseller list or the USA Today bestsellers list, or you know, being talked about on the morning shows, right? And that's what you guys do so well. And you know, you guys are national treasures.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, we think we are too. On here though, it's pretty amazing. I can't remember. Okay, I'm gonna get this messed up. Somebody on here has read 22 of them, and I don't know if that's you, Beth. And that's of the 100, which is. And so somebody said, Dee, I think said she only read 10. I didn't read as many as I thought. I didn't go through.
I know, me either.
I was like, I thought I was a pretty good reader.
Well,
I definitely wasn't close to the 20 mark.
No,
but that doesn't mean that you're
not a good reader.
You're that, I mean, like, you're prolific. You're a prolific reader.
And let's face it, I love lists. Don't get me wrong, love them, and I devour. There's still, they did so much. There's so many different ways to look at this list, different individual writers and their list. Yeah. But it is arbitrary. I mean, it's not definitive. And there were authors who weren't on the list that I'm like, where are they? Why aren't they there?
Yeah.
Well,
That was
Tom,
really tough.
how did you go through your list and figure out, like, you have probably had a lot of them on there, I'm assuming, or
Me?
yeah, the 100 list.
Yeah, well, yeah, oh yeah, a lot. I mean, I read I have figured I'd read 11 of the 100, which
Okay.
I thought I would be higher than that.
Me
But
too.
all of them, of course, were Penguin Random House books. Some mine, some not mine. But
Yeah. Yeah. It
and I
was
mean,
fun. It was a kind of a fun thing to do,
totally, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
And
Yeah,
the way
we
that they let you can easily like it allows you to check the
That
ones you've
was
read, check the ones you want to read.
I love that. And then you could create these little slides that you could share on social media.
Oh, I didn't realize
It
that.
created the book covers for you. And I was just like, okay, I want that for us. Like, how do we
Yeah.
get that capability?
Yeah, that is really true. Like just to
Yeah.
make it more interactive and easier.
Yeah, because I read so many things that I want to like be able to ship, but it's just like, okay, I take crappy pictures. It's like then I've got to figure out, okay, I got to link it to, and it's just like, oh, I give up. And then it's like, oh well, I'll just talk about it later.
But it was fun to see books that are recent ones too, like
Yeah.
Trust was on there.
Yep.
Which sometimes it takes like whenever critics or writers do these lists of movies, or usually it takes a while for newer books to crack those lists. So I was excited about Trust, The Friend by Sigrid Nunez,
Yep.
what
That was
I
good.
love. Exit West.
Yep.
And
That
then
was one I could check. Those are two that I could
and
check.
then a book that was not so new, but I remember how much I love this book, and I have to look. It must have been 2000 or 2001, very early, an early Riverhead book, The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde.
Oh,
Yeah.
Which was a great book.
Yeah,
So
I was happy to see that W.G. Sebald's Austerlitz made the top 10 because that was an early book.
yes.
And another, sorry, Amanda, magisterial.
yeah. But so Andrew, so I read this week a couple things, but one of them I'm almost 100. I only have 100 pages left. If you're into true crime, read Carrie, Carol, and Coco. It's very good.
I'm glad that you took a look at that. Yeah, it's really getting some like just mind-blowing reviews that
because what I love about it is that it's not this salacious thing.
No,
it's really this girl that wanted to write about her friend and her friend's life.
Yeah,
and
it was somebody, it was like, what happened? She's trying to like, get to the bottom of how this person was murdered in her apartment by her roommate.
Right.
And how did it get to that,
right.
How did it get to that like terrible
But
spot?
it's so much about her and her family. And so it's really it's almost like it's a memoir of the victim.
Yeah.
And how it's fleshed out. It's very good.
Good. And it's, and it's also about creativity because they're, people were creative people.
Yeah. In the
whole like
Wendy
that
subway
whole scene,
thing,
like bohemian,
Very bohemian. It's very good.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, that was fun.
That was fun, yeah.
We got some good new recs, and we got ourselves a good list. If you haven't, Amanda put in the Facebook comments, if you haven't seen it and haven't done it, the list to look at the 100 of the century from the New York Times. So you can click on that and go through it. It's a really fun, interactive thing.
Now I have books to read, more books to read.
Well, that's what somebody on here they were talking about too, is that not only the ones that we haven't read, but it was also what I loved about this list is like, well, if you like this, you might like these.
That's right.
So it was a really, really well thought out list.
Yeah.
Really gave some really good options. So the New York Times, sometimes I have some issues with you, but this was a good one.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time and energy on this.
You have good games, and I like this list. Your op-eds, might want to be rethinking your op-eds. So just saying. I'm
with you. I love the games.
Love the games. Love your lists.
Yeah, the arts section, arts and culture. Can't beat it.
Yep. All right, everybody. Happy reading for a good week. Stay cool wherever you're at, and we'll see you on Monday. And Andrea and her rings maybe will be back.
Yeah.
You guys all have to get rings.
You gotta get rings.